I can do it now. Okay, Katie, whenever you're ready, feel free.
All right, welcome everyone and thanks for joining. And sorry, I have a little bit of a cold today, so if I sound a little bit weirder than normal, then that would be why. But my name is Katie, and I'll be doing an introduction to the Optimal Resume System today. And mainly I just want to talk about all these great features that are available to you for free through IFMA. And we'll talk about what you'll have access to, how you can use the features, and just some cool things that can help you with your job search. And again, if you have any questions, just please feel free to type away, and we're happy to address them at any point. And we will also leave a little bit of time at the end for questions if you have any. And also at the end, I'll provide my contact information. If you do have follow-up questions, I'm always happy to help with anything Optimal Resume related. So let's go ahead and get started. So we're doing an introduction, and today we will start just mainly introducing the program, of course, talking about how you can get started with a free account, and then we'll go into a demonstration of the tool. So I'll actually switch over to the website. I'll go through an account of my own and show you some of the tools from a typical user's perspective, and that will include all of our products, that's in particular Optimal Resume, Optimal Letter, Optimal eFolio, Assessment, Interview, and Video Resume. We'll do demonstrations of each of these. And then lastly, of course, any last time for Q&A, at least any questions that haven't already been asked throughout the day today. Now, first off, just a little bit of an introduction about Optimal Resume. Our company was founded in 2005, and we provide online career tools to help with job searches. How Optimal Resume was founded is our founders are executive recruiters, and they were looking for a way to easily teach people how to specifically write a resume. There are a lot of great programs out there that can help you create a great-looking resume, in particular Microsoft Word and other word processors. However, they don't have a lot of features and content specifically geared towards resumes. You're pretty much on your own. You have to know what you're doing, and it's very powerful, but it doesn't exactly give you that detailed information that can be very helpful. So the founders set off to create this tool to help you specifically write a resume. They've built in features and resources designed to supplement that and to guide you through every step of resume writing. And we also have subsequent tools that were designed to supplement the resume builder. That includes our cover letter builder. We have an online portfolio builder where you can upload examples of your work. We have an interview practice program that actually lets you practice interview questions with the computer. We have a skills assessment tool that lets you make a table of your marketable skills. We have a video resume recorder for the more advanced users that lets you record like a video introduction to share with employers. And then we also have a professional website builder that you can use to take all these documents that you've created and present them onto a website that you can then share with an employer. That way you're not sending a gazillion email attachments with all these different files. You can instead send a link and everything's conveniently located there. All this is included with an Optimal Resume account, and that account is free for IFMA Corporate Facilities Council members. So it's a great service to check out. There's definitely no shortage of features and information available to you. So with that, let's talk about how to get started. So the website that you need to keep in mind is just ifma.optimalresume.com. This is your association's website, and it's custom for its members. And you'll probably also see a link to this somewhere on your association's portal. Most will include a link there as well. But if you just remember ifma.optimalresume.com, that will also get you to the same location. So let me now pause and go into my browser. And this is where we'll spend most of our time today for the demonstration part. So this is the actual website right here. Again, ifma.optimalresume.com. To get started, if you don't have an account already, you'll just click on Create New Account at the top left corner, and you'll see it brings you to a new area. From here, it's just going to ask you for your member ID number, and you'll just type that in there and click Continue. If the ID number is recognized, you'll be brought to a profile. If not, it's just going to give you an error message. We updated the list of ID numbers just this morning, actually, so it should be pretty up to date, but if for whatever reason you're not recognized in the system, please let me know, and I can work with you and get you set up. Now I already have an account set up, so I'm not going to go through the full profile. It's very straightforward. You would basically just establish your contact information, a login for future visits. Takes like 5 minutes tops to set up. So let me go back to our home page. Now you see I already have an account created, and I'm going to go ahead and log in and demonstrate the tools through this account. So when you start using Optimal Resume, you're first going to be brought to this area called the Document Center. And you can see on the page that we have different fields for each program here in Optimal Resume. So we have all these different programs at your disposal. And you can see that I've been using each one quite extensively for previous webinars like this. And you can really use these in any order that you want to. Most people naturally start with resume, but if you wanted to start with letter or portfolio, you can certainly do that. Just totally depends on your needs, but it's just open and you can use it freely. And you can also use it in any quantity that you want. There's no restrictions at all on the number of documents you can make. So you can make like 5 resumes, 10, 20, totally up to you. So very flexible and very easy to use. You can see that I have existing documents in here, so I've been using this account for a while. Now if I wanted to go in and edit those, I would just click on the names, but for now I'm going to go ahead and create a new resume and start with our resume builder and show you all the features that are available here. So first off, I'm just going to name my resume. So far so good, and that part's pretty easy. And then down here we have an option of uploading a resume from your computer. Now if you have an existing resume, excuse me, or resume that you've already completed and you know you're not going to make any changes to it, but maybe you're just looking for a quick way to post it online and share it with employers, you can upload it directly as a read-only copy here in Optimal Resume. That's a good starting point if you've recently updated it. However, if you're still in the process of making changes to it, or maybe you just want to see what features you can use to enhance your resume, I would leave that unchecked, and then I'm going to click on Start Resume, and that begins a new resume in the builder. And it is possible to copy-paste content from an existing resume. We have a lot of customers who will do that. They usually have like an older resume or a first draft of a new resume, so that's totally fine to do, and I'll demonstrate that a little bit later. From here, we have different options on how to begin the resume, and this is where you start seeing the content and the resources come into play. So we have different options that you can select depending on where you are. You can start from scratch if you know exactly what you're doing and what sections you need to include, but you can also use either a section set or a sample if you're looking for more of an outline or some more structure as you go into the resume. Maybe it's been a while since you've done your last resume, or you're changing careers and you'd like to take a look at a different resume or some different options. You can use these features to do just that. The main difference is that a sample is a full-page resume, whereas a section set's more like a rough outline, and it's just more like a skeleton of recommended sections. So let me show you some samples first, just to show you what they look like and how you can use them. We have a gallery of resumes here, over 100 right now, but I will say that this is going to grow very shortly, probably by the end of the year into much more. So we have over 100 right now. They span a variety of categories, and you can browse through all of these at your leisure. And it just really depends on what you're looking for. We even break them down by experience level, so you have entry-level, mid-career, and executive-level ones. And then for each category that you select, there's also top 5 tips on the right that give you great tips for writing a resume in this field. So you get a little bit of guidance if you're looking for a more industry-specific resume, or you're just curious what the new tips are for writing a resume in your field. But of course at the bottom is the main event, the actual samples, and any of these you can click on for a larger preview, and you can take a look and get some brainstorming ideas and just see some examples and visualize them. We often deal with users who haven't seen a resume in a while, or they haven't worked on resumes in a while, and they're just having trouble visualizing the final product, and this is a good feature for getting back on track with that. You can just look at all these different scenarios and examples and figure out what you might want to integrate, if anything, onto your own resume. And speaking of that, if you notice at the top there's an area called Use the Sample, that actually lets you apply this entire template to your resume. So if you really like this particular resume, you can actually take it, apply it, and make it your own very easily here in Optimal. So those are the samples, and then the other option is using a section set, and this is more just kind of the in-between, not as elaborate as the samples, but also not as hands-off as Start from Scratch. And these are just different sections and outlines that you can use in your resume. Maybe you just generally want to know what's expected or what you should include in your resume. This will give you some guidance. It'll show you what sections are recommended. All this, by the way, you can edit and customize. So even if you're using a template and you find that maybe the template isn't 100% match for what you're trying to do, you can add sections, you can delete sections, rename them, so you have full control and flexibility with this resume. Now if I were to click continue or apply a sample, that would then bring me into the resume editor, and I can then start writing out my content and expanding on that. But let's go back to an existing resume and show you an example of one that's a little bit further along. So this is a resume that's obviously a little bit more written out than what we started with, and this is where you would end up regardless of which option you select in the beginning. And here you can see we have our resume on the page, and we have all the text and sections laid out. Your resume is broken up into sections. That way you can focus on each one individually, and it helps you narrow your perspective a little bit and spend more time on each. Now here you can see that things are also turning orange as I move my mouse around the page, and that just means that you can click on that item to edit it. So the sections that turn orange, just click on them to change them. The contact information up there, you can click on to change. So it's all customizable to your needs. Let's just take this top section here as Facility Management Professional section. Maybe I want to make some changes to that. I can just click on it directly, and it opens up two text editing fields. The first is the title, so if I don't like that name anymore, I can change it. And then I have my text field where I can write out my content. This particular field is very straightforward. It's just the standard little word processor here in the builder, and you can make your changes and text edits here. This part's definitely nothing new for most resume writers. However, like I was mentioning earlier, how we differentiate ourselves from the traditional word processor is just all the content and resources that we build into the program, and you will also find those in this location. So for example, let's say that I haven't written this type of introduction before. This is something fairly new to me, but I see that it's being recommended, and let's just say, for example, that this section is blank to start with. So maybe I haven't attempted this section before, but I'm really curious what to do here, or I could really use some guidance for just this part of the resume. Well, I can look up my examples and get guidance on just that. So I can go through my different types of sections and understand what's expected in each type of section here in the resume. This is probably like a headline or like an objective or introduction. Yeah, I'll go with profile and summary. So here you can see examples of a typical summary section, and I can get some ideas for what to do in my own resume. And any of these you can also add directly into the resume and adapt them from there. So if you think that one's a really great fit for you, you can actually add it and copy it into the resume, and then make whatever edits you need to adapt it to your own needs. So it's a good way to get started, much like you can take a sample template and apply it to your resume. So you can make whatever changes here. You can go through all the different examples. They're all broken down by sections, and they're even, if you see at the top, broken down by experience level. So you can see different examples depending on how much experience you have in the field. And then another feature that you'll find helpful is the action verbs tool, and that's directly to the right of examples. And this is at the source of terms that you can use in the resume. A common thing that we see with resumes that we receive would be bullet points. For example, there could be like 5 bullet points in a section, and they all start with the same exact word. And it's just very redundant and hard to identify which bullet point is which. So this tool is designed to combat that. So here you can see we have just different word suggestions that you could use, things like accomplished, administered, attain, just ways to mix it up if you ever run into resume writer's block. So that's another great resource available in every section that you're working on. And when you're done with your content, all you would do is save it or cancel out. I'll just say cancel since I deleted that content. And that brings you back to our starting point. And anytime you click a save button, it saves the whole thing, so then you would just keep repeating that for the rest of the resume. Most of the sections will look like what I just showed you. The only section that will look a little bit different is your experience section. If we go a little bit further down the page, you'll notice under professional experience we have a slightly different arrangement. We have our dates aligned on the right, company information on the left, and that's not actually anything I did in the text field. That's all done automatically by the program, and let me click on this to show you how. Here you can see that we have additional fields in this editor that we didn't see in the last section that we worked on. So in the last section we just had the title and the content, but here we have stuff like company name, location, date range, job title, a little bit more than what we previously saw. And the reason why we break out these fields like that is so we can get that look of get the look and get the alignment correct, so the program will know where to sort these fields when everything is saved. And this, if you've ever done work like this in Word, or if you've done a lot with like alignment or tables in the experience section, this really cuts down on time spent with the organization, because all of the experience items are going to take the same format, they're going to look consistent, and they're very easy to edit, so you can focus more on the writing, less on the overall style and appearance, since a lot of that's being done for you. But you would just fill out your fields just like normal, fill out your texts, and that's the same as what we saw in the last section. You have the same types of tools available. You have your examples, your action verbs tools, so it's pretty easy to pick up the subsequent sections once you're familiar with the first section here in Optimal. And you'll see when we save that all the text is formatted automatically. It's all organized. They even went in and like bolded the company name. So it's very easy to put together a great looking resume. You're not spending a lot of time fighting with the word processor or dealing with alignment. You can just plug in the information and save it, and it looks great. Other things that you can do, you can have the ability to add and delete sections in the sections menu, so you can actually customize this to your needs, even if you're using a template. You can reorder them, and then you also have ways to remove sections. You have your tools menu below, and these are tools to help you with the content of the resumes. Many of these have actually already been pointed out in other parts of the resume builder. We just kind of leave them here just to make sure people know where to find them. And so in this area you could go back to resume tips or full page sample or video tutorials and other areas to learn more about either optimal resume or writing a resume. One thing I'll mention at the very bottom is the Explore Careers link, and that's the bottommost link in the tools area. This is a very popular tool, and this gives you information provided by ONET. And if you're not familiar with ONET, it's basically a database that's compiled by the U.S. Department of Labor, and it gives information on popular occupations across the country, information on what skills are required, information on the knowledge that's required, the tasks they're expected to do, and so on. And with this information, how we use it in the context of a resume builder is we use it as a way to understand what the employer is looking for in a certain field. So let's say, for example, that you're trying for a different job title, you're trying to get promoted, and you're curious to see what skills might be required for that next job. You can look up information by job family and bring up data on that job. That way you get a better understanding of what's expected in that role, what that employer might be looking for, and also what you might want to highlight on your resume. So you can see we have tons of job families. There's over 1,000 occupations in here to start with, and even on its own, ONET is a really great resource. You can even just Google this, and it's publicly available information for job seekers provided by the Department of Labor. So it's a really great resource and also integrated with Optimal. And you will see this also available in other parts of Optimal Resume, particularly in skills assessment, which we'll get to a little bit later. Up at the top, we also have some styling tools. So even though we do take a lot of the load off in terms of styling and changing the appearance, we do give you lots of options and customizations for changing it to the exact font and style that you want. So if you click on Style Resume, it opens up a palette with different settings that you can use. You can do everything from just changing the style template overall, maybe to one of these pre-styles. So you can see you can change it pretty easily. And then you can also use these other tabs to change more individual settings, for example, margins, font style, bullet style, without affecting the rest of the resume. So there's tons of different options, and this is also how it will look when it's downloaded. So I can take this resume, download it into Word. It'll have the exact same font, same margins, same lines. I don't have to do a thing to it unless I want to, of course, and I can just take it, turn around, and start sending it to employers or posting it on job boards. A couple other things I'll mention towards the top of the page. It is possible to copy a resume of yours, and make updates to it if you maybe want to make specific changes to appeal to a different employer. That's done using the clone tool. Personally, I love this tool because it allows me to take my original resume, clone it, make a few slight changes to the summary, which is very common to do for individual employers, and then send that clone off to the employer. So it really cuts down on time spent with each individual resume in the builder. There's also a great resource called Resume GPS, and that's accessed in the GPS menu towards the top. And what this does, it allows you to make your resume searchable by employers here in Optimal Resume. So let's say, for example, that your resume is finished and you want to start figuring out your options for sharing it or putting it out there. This is one such option, and all you would need to do if you want to make your resume searchable in our database is check a box that says this is my GPS resume. At that point, it's put into our resume database, which is available to thousands of employers through our corporate website. The way in which we get those resumes is by users volunteering them with this menu. So it's a great way to get noticed by employers. They can send you messages through Optimal Resume, so it's all in the secure system. And it's just a really quick and easy way to get started. And then lastly, we have the download button, last but not least, of course, and this is where you would save your finished resume. You can save it into multiple formats, Word, PDF, plain text, just whatever you need. Some employers specify certain formats, so we give you lots of options. And there's also a way that you can share your resume online on a professional website. And I mentioned that a little bit earlier in the PowerPoint slides, and let me actually show you an example of that now. So I have another tab open. This is an example of a resume that's been posted onto a website in our website builder. And here you can see it's displayed just like any other resume in Optimal, but the benefit is that instead of just downloading it and emailing it to someone, I can just post it in a link and send that link off to the employer, and they can go here and see exactly what I'm seeing. In addition to that, I can also attach other useful documents, which I'll show you how to create in a little bit, including your letter. You can include your portfolio. You can include a skills assessment if you want to do a table of your marketable skills, and even a video resume to supplement your existing resume. So there's all kinds of cool things that you can add into this in addition to the resume. And we'll talk about each of these individual items shortly after this, and then we'll get to the website builder towards the end. So this is the last and kind of the biggest way to share your resume other than downloading it. But for now, though, and back in the Resume Builder, let me pause and see if there are any questions that have come up about the Resume Builder before we move on to some of the other tools. And Josh, have any questions come up so far? All right, I'm not hearing a response, so I'm going to go ahead and move on. And if you do have questions, just let us know and type them in, and we're happy to help. So let me move on to our Document Center and talk about some of the other tools. The Resume Builder is usually the main attraction of the program, as the name of the company implies, but we also have a lot of great supplementary tools to that, including our Letter Builder. And the Letter Builder, really, if you know how to use the Resume Builder, you pretty much already know how to use this because it's pretty much the same tool functionality-wise, just obviously one's designed for resume, one's designed for a letter. So let's go into an existing letter. Hopefully you see the similarities right off the bat. This is the exact same editor, so we like to keep things very consistent and user-friendly. And here you can see that it's pretty much the same deal. Anything that turns orange, you can click on it, make changes to it, and all the information is laid out automatically for you, so you don't have to guess where the address or information goes. You have, of course, your contact info, recipient's info, all laid out for you, and then, of course, the central text field for your body and all of your different paragraphs. So all of your paragraphs go into the same location, intro, content, and closing, pretty much the exact same editor that we saw in the resume builder, and you have the same types of tools. Obviously, the resources here are geared towards a cover letter. You will see equivalent features between both. For example, I just clicked on the examples button in the letter builder. This shows you examples of typical letter paragraphs, and they're also broken down by the type of letter. I love that they break them down by paragraphs as well, because sometimes we get people who get hung up on the introduction or the closing specifically, but are fine with the rest of the letter. So this helps them focus on that paragraph and how to write and construct it.
Hello, Katie. So I had an audio question.
Sure.
We do have a question. They were asking, can Canadian employers search optimal resume?
Oh yes, yeah. All international employers can search optimal resume. Yes, we have Canadian employers. Most tend to be from the U.S., but we do allow international employers to register.
Thank you. That was the only question at this time.
Okay. All right, and so yeah, in the letter, like I said, it's pretty consistent with what you see in resume, so that's why I usually don't spend a lot of time on it. Of course, you have your signature at the bottom, but it's really helpful to have it like consistent with resume because you have pretty much the same features that you're already familiar with. You also have things like full-page sample cover letters, so you can browse through like different types of letters and browse through fully written ones to see some real-world examples, and also keep in mind with the letter builder, even though it's typically used for a cover letter, there are also some non-cover letter types in here, such as thank you letters, referral letters, lists of references that a lot of times job seekers aren't usually thinking about, but are still really important in a job search. And then, of course, you also have your video tutorials, examples. Any ONET button will make another appearance. And then you also have your style settings at the very top. But that's probably all I will cover on the letter builder just because it is already so consistent with the resume builder. But again, let us know if you have any questions on that. Otherwise, I will move on to portfolio. And portfolios where we really start to diverge from the first two programs. Resume and letter obviously look very similar to each other. Portfolio gets a little bit different. This is a way to organize examples of your work and examples of your past contributions to an employer. These could be anything ranging from things that you've done like for classes or certifications. These could be professional documents, letters of recommendation, examples of work, photographs. It really is endless. A lot of times people think that portfolios are for arts and design people, and while it is the case that these are heavily used in those fields, we've really seen them used in a ton of different fields, pretty much every career path imaginable at this point. And for that reason, we keep ours very open-ended. Now, if you were to start a new portfolio, we do have templates available with different types of portfolios and different ways to organize it. So if you haven't done one before, you would get guidance on what a typical portfolio might look like, why you might need a portfolio, how it would be organized. There's a lot of guidance at the start. Let me go into an existing portfolio just to show you what it looks like. And this, you can see, is a portfolio in the works. And we have, we basically group our files into what are called projects. So each one of these big titles at the top is a project. So this Excel file is a project. The IFMA certifications, that's another project. You can keep going down and seeing more projects. And the reason why we group our files this way is just because it's easier to organize. We don't want a situation where someone's just kind of throwing 20 or 30 files in a portfolio, just kind of willy-nilly with no organization. This makes it easy to follow. It makes it easy for the employer or whoever's seeing it to find what they're looking for, and it also reflects better on the candidate as well. Now with each project, so we have one that's been started, already has some files and examples in it, everything ranging from photos, PowerPoint presentations, you can see there's a certificate there, so all kinds of cool things. But let's say that maybe I'm returning to this after a while. I have some new things that I've made for work, and I'd like to include them in the portfolio to add on to what I already have here. So what I can do, if I want to add it to an existing project, all I would need to do is click Add Files to that project, or I can add a brand new project and start with something completely new. Maybe this is going to be a new project of some work or writing samples that I've wanted to add in. You can also add description if you want to include information on what the employer can find here to help them better navigate. And then from here, once you establish a project, you can then start adding files to the project. And there's multiple ways that you can do that. First and most popular way is to upload a file from your computer, and this just lets you take whatever file, Word document, PDF, Excel, image, audio, video, whatever you have, and upload it here directly to the website. That tends to be what most people use. However, you can also link to a website if the work is already hosted online. Maybe it's your company's website, something that you've worked on. You can just include the URL there. So let me see if I can find a file, and let me just open up like just do a simple Word document just as an example. So I will first name my file. I can include description, explain the backstory, what I learned from this, just any information that the employer might need to know before they view and open the file. And then you can also include viewing requirements. This is mostly useful if you're dealing with audio and video files. If you're just doing a Word doc like I'm doing, you probably don't need these. These are most helpful if you don't know if the employer has the means to open the file, or you don't know if they have the right video player. That way you can include a disclaimer here saying, hey, by the way, you need this player to open the file, and you can download it here just to make sure your bases are covered. But for most people, you will not need to worry about those viewing requirements. When you're done, just save it. You can see it has saved my writing sample down there, and that's pretty much all there is to it. So I added my project, I added the first file. I can immediately turn around and keep going back and adding files and adding more things to that project, or I can switch gears and add a completely new project or add something to these. So portfolio really is a lot of repetition, but once you have it uploaded, it's presented much like we see on the page. The only difference is that when you put it onto a website, like in this example, it's going to be skinned to match the website. So this is an example of a finished portfolio. You can see that you have projects in the same way that I showed you on the page, but instead it's just customized a little bit to match the rest of the content.
Okay, Katie, we had a question. Is there an easy way to get the resume and the letter style to match?
Okay, yes, yeah, there is. So all the style settings between the two programs, you have the same settings for both, and those are both found under the styling palette. Now we don't have the same templates for each for various reasons, but you will find very similar templates. So for example, in letter, when you're looking at the style templates, you'll see several that mimic the resumes, and you'll be able to go through these and apply them pretty easily to your letter just like that. But you'll see it's pretty much the same tool. There is no way to take the resume style that you selected and immediately import it, but that is actually something that developers want to do for the next update. But you do have the same types of editing features available here. All right, and let's move on to a few of the other tools. Next, we have the assessment tool, and this is a way that you can list out and understand your marketable skills. For example, this is especially helpful for someone who's either new to their profession or changing their career, because this will help them understand what's expected in their role and what helps them understand what skills they currently have that can be applied to that role. And you would, if you were to start an assessment, you would basically select your occupation from the same list that was provided in that Explore Careers tool I mentioned earlier. So you'd select your desired occupation, and it would load up skills that are relevant to that occupation. Let me take one of these existing examples just to show you how it works. So it'll load up different skills, and in this case I have 4 skills that are relevant to my field, and any of these I can then see I have columns as well that correspond to each row. So these columns are the different situations in which I developed each skill. So what this does, it helps me lay out and figure out what I've developed for each of these skills and how I've developed that over time. So you can see where this is starting to get handy for someone who may not know what skills are required for their career or what they have to offer for their desired career. Each of these, by the way, if you're unsure of what something is, because sometimes the ONET explanations or the ONET skills are kind of vague, if you move your mouse over a particular skill, it will normally show you like a little bubble with more information and details on that. So it does give you a little bit of self-help. But in each skill you have basically different rows, and in each row you can add text explaining how you develop that skill. Here are some examples up here that have already been listed. It could be anything ranging from just like a short sentence to a couple of bullet points, and some people even go crazy and do like a paragraph for each one of these. And they tend to be a little bit more formal, of course. It's just a way for you to list out how you developed a certain skill and what you learned from that skill, and figuring out where your strengths and weaknesses are. So for example, I clicked on add where it says team management for jobs and internships, and I can then include an anecdote about how I used team management, how I developed it in my recent role, and how that could be useful in my new role. And it's just the same text field that we saw in the resume builder. I can include I'm just including some placeholder information there, but you just include your text, save it, and it's saved into the table. So where this is helpful is a lot of people tend to use this internally just to figure out where their strengths and weaknesses are, or if there's something that they should be highlighting more but currently aren't. And there's also a very cool tie-in with the resume builder for those who decide to make one of these before they do the resume. So if I go back to an existing resume, it could be any resume, and you'll see at the bottom there's a little black toolbar of resources and tips and announcements, but also in that toolbar is something called My Skills. And this loads up the different assessments that you've filled out. So you can actually look up the different skills and listings that you've included, all those anecdotes that we were completing, and you can then take those and integrate them into your resume. So it's kind of like having a notepad there. You don't have to go back and forth between the two programs. You can just call it up immediately and continue working on it in your resume. And let me see if there are any.
Question.
Oh, sure.
They're asking, is the resume solely hosted on Optimal Resume, or can it be placed on other sites such as Job Builder, Monster, or LinkedIn?
Oh, absolutely. You can place it on any website you choose. Once you download it, it's just a simple Word document or PDF, and you can do whatever you want with it. A lot of people will post it on Monster, Job Builder. You will also be able to use your Optimal Resume link to post on LinkedIn. For example, in my own LinkedIn profile, I have a link to my Optimal Resume website with my resume and information. So we see that done a lot as well. But yeah, you have full control over what you do with your resume. It's, of course, hosted here as well, but you can always post it elsewhere. All right, so let's turn our attention to a couple of the video tools next. We have Interview and Video Resume. These are 2 tools which allow you to use your webcam to record responses. Interview is the practice version of the tool, so this is something that you're using more just to figure out what some common interview questions are, just more for your personal skill building. You're not actually sharing the finished recordings with the employer. It's more just for your own practice and benefit. The Video Resume, on the other hand, is the formal sibling sibling to interview. This is something that you're recording with the intention of sharing it with the employer. So this tends to be more formal, and really if you are answering a question in Video Resume, it's briefly tell me about yourself. We really like to think of this more like an elevator pitch. It should not be, despite the name Video Resume, it really shouldn't be a replacement for the existing resume. If you use one of these, you should have both on your website and use the Video Resume to just branch off from what's already established in your traditional resume. But first, let's take our attention to interview. So with interview, we have a database of questions that are available. We have over 900 to choose from, and like with the resume samples, that's actually going to grow pretty shortly. So first I'll create an interview. We have different scenarios of interviews that you can choose from. There's some early round interviews, there's later round interviews, just depending on what you need. You can also do a custom interview, and that just lets you into the whole database of questions, and you can just pick out whatever questions you want in that interview. And that's a good option if you have a more specific idea of what you need. Let's just take this topmost option of the behavioral interview. Also the number next to each type of interview, that's the number of questions that would go into it. It also gives you a preview of the questions in the center. And then you can also pick your format, whether you want a webcam, whether you want to record audio only or text, or maybe just listen to the questions. So you're certainly not required to use your webcam. In fact, my webcam is actually broken today, and we're waiting on a new one, so I won't be able to demonstrate that part of it, but I will still be able to do an audio one. And the benefit of doing an interview like this is that you're able to share your finished recordings with a colleague. Maybe this is something that you're working with someone to do a mock interview, and you'd like to get their feedback on how you're responding to some questions. You can actually take one of these finished recordings and send it off to them when the time comes. But to get to that point, we actually need to go and respond to these questions. So you can see it lays out your different questions in the playlist down here. Our first one is briefly tell me about yourself, and we have 3 video players on the page. The left, we have the employer, and he's going to sit across the desk and ask you the question. And then the center is where I would record, and then on the right is the coach, and he will give you guidance on how to answer each question. He's basically a pre-made video designed to match each question in the system. You would start with the first question just by playing. You can see that he just said, briefly tell me about yourself, and now that he's done, I can sit back and think about how I want to respond, maybe play the coach and see what his take is on it, and then when I feel like I'm ready, I can hit record, and that's the point where it starts the recording. So at this point, it will initiate recording with my microphone, so it starts recording my voice. If I had webcam enabled, it would also show my video here, and you have up to 2 minutes to record each response. So you can take as much of that time as you need. When you feel like you're done, just click the stop button at the bottom left corner, and that allows you to either redo, play, or save your response. So it's pretty easy. You can see I just saved that. It now indicates that that question's been saved in the playlist, and I can then move on to another question. So it's pretty easy to go in and record these, and when you're done, you can then share these with a colleague or with someone someone you're working with, and talk about interview skills to build on in the future. It's nice in that you can record these pretty much 24/7, so if your schedules don't match up, that's totally fine. You can record this and then send it to them when they can view it later. And speaking of that, how you would share an interview is you would just click this green share button towards the top, and this gives you a link down there that you can use to share your interview publicly. And then, of course, the sibling to interview is Video Resume. Video Resume is the only product in Optimal that absolutely requires the use of a webcam, hence the name Video Resume. So I won't be able to demonstrate the recording part of this one. However, it will work identically to interview, and that it'll just connect directly with your webcam. You'll get up to 2 minutes per section of the video to record, and from that point, you'll be able to either redo or save it. So you'll see the interface is pretty much the same from what we saw in interview. What is cool about Video Resume is that you are given the option of a teleprompter as well during recording, and so you can actually write out a script and have that text move down the screen as you're recording. So that can be really helpful, especially if you're unfamiliar with the Video Resume, which a lot of people are, or if you just want to stay focused on the screen, or if you're just having trouble remembering what to say. When you're done with a video, you also have the ability to edit it afterwards, so you're actually given some light editing tools. You can do everything from figuring out your different sections to record. You can also add what are called bullets, and these are just little pieces of text that you can include. And these would mainly highlight what's already listed in the video. So you can actually include bits of text like that, talking about years of experience, what certifications that you have, to add additional visual cues that the employer or the viewer can pick up on. So you can include those. You can have them actually fade in and fade out at certain parts of the timeline, and even extend or minimize them. So that can be really helpful. And when all is said and done, you get a video on your website that'll look like this. So you'll have basically the same type of player. You will have your video on the left and then a field for bullet points on the right, just like that. And then last but not least, let's briefly look at the resume builder, or not the resume builder, the website builder, and that's always this lonely guy at the very
question.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Before we move on to the website, someone asked, where's all the content stored and who owns the final content? And also, can you permanently delete content?
Oh yeah, you can permanently delete content. You'll see in the document center there's a button next to each file called delete. Just click on that. Permanently deletes the file from our servers. Just keep in mind, once you delete something, there's no way whatsoever to recover it. It is permanently gone. The content is stored on our servers. However, the user owns the content. That's why you can download it. You can share it on your website and share the files as you see fit. But you do still have ownership of the content. But lastly, looking at unless there's any other questions, let's look at the website builder. The website builder is simply a tool that lets you take your existing documents and put them into a website to share with an employer. There are mainly 3 steps in terms of using the website. You have an area where you can add pages, and those are essentially the different files that you've created. So you can pick combinations of your resume, letter, and portfolio, or skills and video resume to include. Notice on this website I've only included these 3 files, so you can be flexible in what you include. You're not forced to add all these things if you don't want to. And then you can change a template to change the style and appearance of the website. So if I have a change of heart or just want to try something new, I can change to one of these different styles. And there's even an area called Customize Sidebar. And what this does, it lets you customize social media widgets to add to the side of the website. These could be links such as a link to your LinkedIn profile, a link to a professional Twitter page, a button to share your website, whatever you need. However, this part is optional, so you can always disable it if you're not comfortable including that. In terms of sharing the website, what you would need to do is click that green Activate Website button at the right corner when you've picked out your settings, and what that does is it makes the link live and it makes it visible to other people. You'll be then given a link, as you see down here. That'll be the link to your optional resume website, and that always follows the format ifma.confidentialresume.com / the name of the website. And a lot of people will name the website their own name just to give the employer another reason to remember them, just another cue for that. And this will contain any of the documents that you've selected, all the different settings that you've selected. And I have an example here of one that was created in this account. So you can see it has the exact resume, letter, and portfolio that I put together, and I can click through those and go through those respective files very easily. The cool thing about this is that if I were to go back to any of these files individually, maybe I went back to my portfolio, decided that I wanted to include some more stuff, that would automatically be included on the website, so I don't have to go back and forth between the 2 programs. It's very, very easy to use. And also, you can always go back later and change the documents that are assigned if you have like a change of heart with your resume. In terms of sharing it, it's totally up to you how you want to share it. And we see a variety of uses of this. We'll see people post these on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on job boards and social media sites. We'll see people put these in email signatures, on business cards, on the bottoms of resumes. So we see a lot of creative uses. It's really up to the end user how they want to share it, though. We don't share or distribute these links at all. We don't even index them in Google. So it's really up to the user how publicly or privately they want to share it and how much they want to share it. And also one other thing I always like to point out in the website builder, there's a passkey tool, so you can actually password protect your website if you're ever concerned about confidentiality or if you need extra level security. And this just lets requires the visitor to match your password as you've typed it in here. And with that, I think that pretty much concludes the whirlwind tour of Optimal Resume. So let's return to our PowerPoint here. So yeah, now just to sum things up, it's a free service. It includes all those features and resources that I showed to you, and that was just just a basic demonstration. But there are tons of other tools available in Optimal, and tons of other settings and things that you can play around with once you get into the tools. And so let's pause and see if there's any last questions or anything that I haven't answered so far. And it looks like we have about 8 minutes left or so.
Okay, give them just a moment to see if any, give them to type in.
Okay.
And then again, to access it, they do just go to the optimalresume.com and click on create a profile, correct?
That's correct. It'll be ifma.optimalresume.com. So you just add the IFMA ahead of Optimal Resume and just click create new account. You can see it's on the page there, top right corner, and then you would enter your ID number for IFMA.
Okay, what happens to your information if, say, for whatever reason you had to, you're no longer a member of IFMA or Corporate Facilities Council? What happens to that information?
That part is really, I don't know why this PowerPoint isn't showing up, but that part is actually up to IFMA. Some career centers just decide to, yeah, no clue why that's not showing up. But anyway, some career centers decide to keep the access. Some will decide to remove the access. Yeah, I'm not sure what IFMA does, policy-wise, but you would have access until either the career center decided to disable it or until the website is removed. But that hopefully will not happen.
Okay, and then someone asked, is there support if you need help? Example, if I shared with another IFMA member who didn't attend this webinar.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they can just contact me. Either my email, you can see it on the page there on the slide, or you can also email support@optimalresume.com. And that's just our main support email address, although we really only have 2 support people, so there's a 50-50 shot you'll get me anyway. And either way, we're happy to help you. Anytime you have technical problems, customer service needs, we're happy to help.
Okay. Give it just another moment, see if there's any other questions. Okay, none are coming through. So if you have any questions, certainly feel free to contact Katie, or you can email them to me at joshua, joshua.amos, A-M-O-S, @ifma.org, and I will put you in contact with Katie. I thank everyone very much for attending, and Katie, thank you very much for presenting.
You're very welcome.
Have a great day and happy holidays.
Thanks, you too.
Thanks.